Will Palestine even still exist after this recent attack? With anger on all sides and the power of the IDF, will there even be a Gaza or West Bank and it just being Israel's state? Will Palestine even still exist after this attack? I am sure it will in some shape or form. This is not the first attack or war in this region or Gaza. There has been countless of wars, attacks, terrorisms, uprisings, rebellions, etc. in this region over 75 years since Israel was established. And yet Palestine still exists. There are an estimated 14 million Palestinians. 5.3 million of these are in the West Bank and Gaza. So far, Palestinian death toll after 3 weeks of fighting is 8,000 people. So yes, the Palestinians are in no danger of disappearing anytime soon. Yes, there will almost unquestionably be a Gaza and West Bank after this conflict is over. The pickle Israel is in is that a one-state solution comes with all kinds of unfavorable implications, just like a two-state solution does. There is zero chance of this. If you understand the Israeli cultural background and perspective, you will realize that. But think about this. Israel has nukes as well as basically unlimited artillery shells and homemade artillery units. It could just literally launch a shell at every house in Gaza. It could also carpet bomb the place. It hasn't done it in the decades since it pulled out. It never had any interest in Gaza or controlling the Palestinians who reside there. And it definitely has no interest in committing war crimes. If you want to discuss it further, I am happy to talk here or privately. Yes, no matter what anyone says about Israel, they aren't likely to just completely flatten Gaza and the West Bank. It's not advantageous, politically speaking. It is called Jordan. That's a Palestinian majority country. Israel has openly stated that after all this, Gaza will lose territory. The whole situation is based on land theft. Did Palestine in the sense of a coherent state even exist before this recent attack? I guess the question would be after 9/11 if you were to ask the average American, do you think Iraq or Afghanistan will still exist after the USA invades them? There are 2 million of Gazans. No one wants to take them. Do you think that Israel would integrate them all or kill them all? Israel can't afford to occupy Gaza and West Bank and still keep its border safe, so things will go back to before after enough people have died. The current military action is short-term stuff, done for political purposes. The people demand revenge without really considering long-term consequences. Israel faces a difficult future in 2050. The majority of Israelis will not do military service, being Arabs or Haredi, and the time when it can rely on just arms to stay alive is vanishing. Gaza as was known until now will not exist as it was. Well, yes, it will be there, but hopefully not Hamas. IDF will mount incursions into Gaza, killing many thousands of civilians, mostly women and kids. They will claim to have destroyed most of Hamas. Israeli government will then promote the PLO as an alternative administrative body while creating bigger buffer zones between Gaza and Israeli territory. The people of Gaza will experience yet more trauma, deprivation and death, but the high birth rates will remain, causing overpopulation and extremism to continue to grow in strength over time. Israel will suffer further loss of international reputation and move further toward authoritarian government. No, the West Bank will be completely taken over. Soon enough, Gaza will remain as a shell of its former self, a graveyard. What is stopping Israel from bombing Gazans out of existence and rebuilding Gaza to be the Singapore of the Middle East, with Israeli settlers replacing the previous population? Israel is not a member of the ICC. A powerful Jewish lobby in the U.S. combined with the desire for the U.S. to have a base of influence in the Middle East means that the U.S. will never stop supporting Israel no matter how many war crimes Israel commits. There will always be survivors, but Palestinian women and children are also miserable. Palestine doesn't exist yet. At least not as proper country, but what might be Palestine one day is also parts of the West Bank. And not just the Gaza Strip, and even the Gaza Strip will exist after this war. Currently the most affected part is the north of the Gaza Strip. A century of resentments, a century of organizations being able to easily influence people into fighting for a cause. There are too many regional forces trying to convince people that they will never be able to get along. International organizational will never convince them to live peacefully. A policed state of continuous oppression and the organizing of groups to fight the oppression with extremism will likely never stop. It's a cycle of hate. Realize it's wishful thinking, but the goal would be for the Palestinians to find a way to get rid of Hamas and then have their own peaceful nation. There is no doubt that is the goal of the majority of Palestinians. No different than it being the goal of a majority of the rest of us. Probably not, and while that's very sad, it's probably for the best. I think soon this will take shape into a wider regional war. More countries will get involved if death tolls in Gaza keep increasing. No. If Israel does their job efficiently, Hamas will be lost to history and Gaza will assimilate into Israeli-ruled society. Those who live there now will either go elsewhere, assimilate, or be annihilated. Yes, unless the West Bank does something stupid. Gaza is not Palestine in its entirety. You are confused about where what Gaza is and where what Palestine is. I sure hope not. Although practically some of them will be left over. Who can get along with them? All they want is your death. Kill, kill, kill. Even their neighbors know better than to let the refugees into their countries. It doesn't exist now. Seeing as how Biden set that as a post-conflict goal, it may begin existing at some point but not likely very soon, judging by the quality of leaders on both sides. The West Bank, yes. Gaza, probably not. I think for that to happen, all of them, Hamas, Netanyahu and Abbas, need to GTFO. I guess the greater moral question is it better for Israel to destroy Hamas, including all of the collateral that will follow that if the end result is a one-state solution that will lead to the possibility of king holding peace, or is it better to have a non-stop cycle of violence where civilians are slowly picked off bit by bit as each side slowly retaliates against the other? Hopefully not. The pre-October 7th status quo will never return. Palestine is a region and a people that live there. It will definitely exist. Whether they will have political autonomy is a maybe. I doubt they will be dissolved, but figure Israel will continue to chip away at the land and autonomy of Gaza and the West Bank. The problem isn't Hamas. The problem is religion, and that's not going anywhere. There will always be new soldiers. Even more certainty it will. The West Bank will still exist. I don't see Gaza being put under PA control. It will still exist whether under Hamas, some other offshoot, or a military government isn't certain.